So, my family and I lived in Gillette, Wyoming for 8 years. And as I look back on that, obviously great people in the church there and great friendships we made. But one of the highlights of that 8 years in Gillette was when Clint Black came to town for a concert. So Clint Black is special to me and my wife because one of his songs is one that we kind of consider one of our songs. And it kind of goes along with what we're talking about today. One of the stanzas goes like this. Love is certain, love is kind, love is yours and love is mine. But it isn't something that we find, it's something that we do. When we're talking about gratitude, last week we talked about how gratitude can be a feeling. It can be an emotion. That's in this book that I've been working through and that we're kind of working through together this month, Grateful, by Diana Butler Bass. She splits gratitude up into personal and public and into emotions and actions, feelings and actions. So we talked about feelings personally last week, and today we're going to talk about actions personally. So I'm going to talk about ethics and an ethic. And we do this because if we leave gratitude at an emotion, if we leave it at the level of feeling, it is too easy for us to resist it, to not follow through on it. That it just be something that stays with us. An ethic is a framework. It's a framework of principles by which we are able to live more fully in the world. And so these principles help guide our actions, help us to develop practices and habits that turn something that might just be left as an emotion into something happening in the world. So that's how it's kind of like love. So this song that talks about love came to mind for me because gratitude kind of resembles love. It can be a noun and it can be a verb. If it's a noun, it's that feeling that may arise spontaneously for us, and it might be a powerful thing. But when it becomes a verb, it becomes something that happens. It becomes an action. It becomes something that we do. And that's what gratitude fully lived is. It is something we feel and something that we do. And gratitude is about making connections because hopefully when we have that feeling of gratitude, it leads us to the discovery that we are on some level really unable to meet all of our own needs, that we have received something from someone that we could not bring to ourselves. So it may humble us and it may inspire us to act, to do something out of gratitude, either to the one who gave us that something or to someone else who is in need. Kind of like that movie from years ago where we learned to pay it forward. That gratitude that we feel can go to someone else. So I encourage you to be thinking about gratitude as something that we do as we hear these words from chapter 25 in Matthew's Gospel today. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who was leaving on a trip. He called his servants and handed his possessions over to them. To one, he gave 5 valuable coins. To another, he gave 2, and to another, he gave 1. He gave to each servant according to that servant's ability. Then he left on his journey. After the man left, the servant who had 5 valuable coins took them and went to work doing business with them. He gained 5 more. In the same way, the one who had 2 valuable coins gained 2 more. But the servant who had received the 1 valuable coin dug a hole in the ground and buried his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The one who had received 5 valuable coins came forward with 5 additional coins. He said, "Master, you gave me 5 valuable coins. Look, I've gained 5 more." His master replied, "Excellent! You are a good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little. I'll put you in charge of much. Come, celebrate with me." The second servant also came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 valuable coins. Look, I've gained 2 more." His master replied, "Well done. You are a good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little. I'll put you in charge of much. Come, celebrate with me." Now, the one who had received 1 valuable coin came and said, "Master, I knew that you are a hard man. You harvest grain where you haven't sown. You gather crops where you haven't spread seed. So I was afraid, and I hid my valuable coin in the ground. Here, you have what is yours." His master replied, "You evil and lazy servant. You knew that I harvest grain where I haven't sown and that I gather crops where I have not spread seed. In that case, you should have turned my money over to the bankers so that when I returned, you could give me what belonged to me with interest. Therefore, take from him the valuable coin and give it to the one who has 10 coins. Those who have much will receive more, and they will have more than they need. But as for those who don't have much, even the little bit they have will be taken away from them. Now, take the worthless servant and throw him out into the farthest darkness. People there will be weeping and grinding their teeth." This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Amen. So, Diana Butler Bass talks about how there are skills involved in gratitude. And one of those skills will sound familiar because this is a drum that I tend to beat a good bit, but one of the great skills related to gratitude is noticing when a kindness is done or when a benefit is received. It is the perception that we have that something has happened that we are to be grateful for. And so we are, in part in our lives, to be about cultivating an awareness of gratitude, developing the habits that will lead us to recognize and to acknowledge our thankfulness for things in this world. Some of you may already do some of these things. Some of you may already keep a journal where you pay attention to the things that you are grateful for in life. Some of you may follow the lead that your parent started way, way back when, and you write notes and thank you notes and letters to people expressing your gratitude and appreciation for them. It may be that you have a practice of prayer or meditation regularly where you, in part at least, recognize the blessings in your life. It may be that you do have a practice of reciprocity where when something good happens to you, you make sure something good happens to someone else too. Bass talks about how we learn lessons around gratitude. That one is that when you look for things to be grateful for, you're going to find them. Think about it right now. What is one thing that you are grateful for? I'd wager something comes to mind for you. The more we do that, when we look for things, we find them. And we get better at looking for them, and we get better at finding them the more we do it. Another lesson that we learn is that gratitude builds on itself. That the more you have, the more gratitude you have, the more gratitude comes your way. This is like in our reading from Matthew today, where those first two servants who got the 5 coins and then got the 2 coins, they immediately saw that there was an opportunity to have more coins. And so what they did with what they were given was to produce more, to make sure that more built onto what they were given in the first place. You begin to create that ethic, that framework that you live in, where you begin to pick up on more and more of what happens in your life, where you begin to develop principles and practices that begin to guide your life in relation to the gratitude that you experience. It's like from the Thessalonians reading today. It's almost like a laundry list of things that will help us develop habits of gratitude. It says to comfort the discouraged. What is that? What is encouragement? Encouragement is offering courage that you have to someone else. Helping the weak. It's taking strength that you have, offering it to someone else. Be patient with everyone. That's a biggie. The equivalent of 2 wrongs don't make a right in this passage. We'll get to it in a minute, but habits don't go just in the positive, but they can go in the negative as well. And so as people of gratitude, we learn not to perpetuate the wrongs, not to perpetuate the negative feelings. It says to pursue the good for each other, for everyone, as a matter of fact. It says to pray continually, to give thanks in every situation, to rejoice always. It's a great list that lends itself to gratitude. Gratitude stretches through our whole life, and we have ways of both looking at the past and at the present and at the future to develop those habits and develop that ethic, that framework for our life guided by gratitude. The story of our life helps create those habits. Just think about it. Looking to the past, what is the story in your life that you look back on? You hated what happened, but as you look back on it, it shaped your life irrevocably in a way that you would never trade for anything now. Remembering events, both bad and good, through that lens of gratitude allows us to rewrite our stories and to find sources of strength from the past. You all may remember a couple months ago, I told you the story of my college years when I flunked out after 3 semesters. And I had great advocates, and we tried because the policy at the school was that if you failed a couple of classes in one term, you had to take 2 terms off before you could come back. Now, I knew that I was going to change my major, I was going to change everything. And so myself and a couple of my advocates, my campus minister and the dean of the chapel, who became a bishop in the Methodist Church, wrote letters to the dean, encouraging him to make an exception. Let this young man come back in the spring. And in his great wisdom, the dean said, no. And so I took some time, and I learned from that time. And looking back on it, I wouldn't trade that for the world. That time was incredibly important for me. So the past can help us develop these habits. The present can also do this. Parker Palmer, the writer, talks about how we can develop soft eyes. He says it's a concept taken from martial arts, of which I know very little. Some of you may know much more than I. But the idea is that we develop our peripheral vision. This is a spiritual thing. We develop our peripheral vision so that we can see more of the world. We can see things in perspective, not simply in isolation. It's like for you sports fans, you football fans, when the commentator is talking about the quarterback and how he can see the whole field. That's a gift. That he can see everything. He can see everybody out there. That's what soft eyes are about. When you're unprepared for events in your life, you can have a fight or flight response, and your vision narrows your options and what you can see, the opportunities, the possibilities that you can sense. But when you have soft eyes, when an event occurs, you're able to get past the reflex to narrow your vision and instead respond receptively to broaden your vision and see, how does this fit in the bigger picture? It's like in that story in Matthew, the first two servants in Matthew had soft eyes. When this master, who was the same cruel, harsh master that the third servant had, when this harsh master gave them the coins to do something with, they didn't narrow their focus and freak out like the third did. Their vision expanded, and they said, "What could I do with these coins? Let me count the ways." So that's the past and the present. In the future, we are able to look to build our resilience. It's where in the Thessalonians passage where it says, "Rejoice always." This is about looking always to the future, to the rest of our life. It's about developing the capacity to encounter new events with gratitude and anticipate the possibility and the probability of having more positive experiences in the future and seeing them with soft eyes in the future rather than with closed vision. It's about developing the capacity to make choices and to seek out situations that set us up for more positive situations, for more situations where we can exercise our gratitude. It's about setting things up in our life that help us to grow into this way of being. It's about having small groups, like those early Methodist class meetings where people got together for support and accountability. It's about setting up intentional practices in our lives. One place that I like to go, I don't get to go nearly often enough, but there is a monastery in northern New Mexico near Abiquiu. And it's a Benedictine monastery. And I go for the silence and the solitude and the time by myself, far away from any internet signal. And I always, at least the first day I'm there, I try to follow their liturgy of the hours. Some of you are aware that in monastic settings, they often have a series of times during every day when the residents, the monks or whoever are there, will gather for prayer and worship. And it's no small thing for somebody who doesn't do it every day, because it starts at 5 a.m. The bell rings at the church up the hill, and it's a quarter mile away from the guest house. So getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning to hike up to the church. Starts at 5 o'clock with vigils. Then about 6:30 is lauds. Then at 9 o'clock is terce. Then at 1 o'clock is sext. Then vespers is around 5, and compline is about bedtime. And then it all starts over again. But they live this rhythm every single day so that they will have it ingrained in them. Gratitude for their God and the relationships they share with one another and the relationship that God has with the world. It's a gift to us to know that each and every day they are getting up early in the morning and gathering throughout the day to pray for this world and for us. Our Muslim friends do the same thing. They gather 5 times a day for prayer. And it doesn't have to be that involved. It could be that you have a practice where you every morning wake up and swing your legs off the side of the bed and you give thanks for a new day. Or maybe when you're getting ready to go to bed at night, the last thing you do is hit your knees at the side of the bed and to thank God for the day. It can be very simple. Maya Angelou said, "If you must look back, do so forgivingly. If you must look forward, do so prayerfully. However, the wisest thing you can do is be present in the present, gratefully." We live this life, and there are things that get in the way, and there are things that push us forward. We have headwinds that will get in our way, things that block us, challenges that we have to overcome. Oftentimes, those can become those stories from the past that later on we can say, you know what, that made me stronger. We don't wish for them. They find us anyway, don't they? Like any wind. And then there are tailwinds, the winds that push us from behind that we almost take for granted because we don't have to look at them. They're just there. Some of the headwinds that we may face, the things that get in our way, may be financial, they may be health-related, maybe relationship-related. The things that become tailwinds, the things that push us forward, things that we may take for granted in life. It may be our supportive community. Maybe the place that we go to find peace and to relax. We don't actually think about it because it's always there for us. It may be family or friends, other relationships. It may be, like for Diana Butler Bass, it may be the fact that she was a great student. She took it for granted that she could go to class later on, that she could write a book, that she was smart, that she enjoyed the activity of the mind. It's kind of oftentimes the infrastructure built around our lives that supports us, that lifts us up. These are things we might call blessings in our lives. Finally, earlier in Matthew, some of you may remember the verse that says, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The question becomes, in the midst of our past, present, and future, in the midst of the headwinds and the tailwinds that we face in life, what is our treasure? Some of us are glass half empty people, And we find it really easy to perpetuate and to relive the negative things in our life, the ingratitude of our lives. But what does it look like for us to say that gratitude is our treasure? And to place our lives on a course where gratitude defines our day-to-day, so that our lives don't spiral into ingratitude. That's a lot like what it must be like when you end up in that place of farthest darkness where people are weeping and grinding their teeth. Or we perpetuate gratitude and we find that it builds on itself, that one episode of gratitude leads to another, to another, to another, and before long, that's how we view the world. That's how we live. And that's all about what we do. It's about the habits that we live into in our lives. And every choice that we make sets up the next choice that we're going to make. And every one of those choices and the results of those choices begin to put those habits in place. And so that each habit that we adopt builds that resilience and the capacity for us to deal with the next thing with soft eyes. And over time, gratefulness becomes a part of us. It becomes not just a feeling, but it becomes something that we do day after day after day. Amen.